The views and opinions expressed during Love and Life with Lana and Dave are those only of the speakers and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or the position of our podcast hosts or affiliates. Any content provided is not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, individual, anyone, or anything. All right, let's do it.
You're listening to Love and Life with Lana and Dave, the podcast where logic is power and you take control. Thank you for tuning in and making the choice to listen in and get ideas for your own love and life. Now, here are your hosts, Lana Williams and David Vaccaro.
All right, here we are. We are in February. Last week, I'm looking at a calendar, was the very, very beginning of February. So this is week 2 for podcast in February. This is Lana. We are on Love and Life with Lana and Dave, and I'm holding the fort down for Dave at the moment. So this week we are talking about the context of dating, things that have been happening over the past few decades as far as dating is concerned, from the time that, at least I'm going to bring it into just the time that I personally have dated, what I've seen as a kid, then growing up, but I think my generation was like the first generation to bridge and say, well, I want to continue education. And it maybe not immediately. It depended, at least for the women, it seemed like. I know for the men, it seemed like the men did want to go ahead and continue their education after high school and do their thing. But with women, it was more like, I want to get a degree in something as a backup plan or as an alternate plan or as something that they just wanted to have in their pocket, maybe just to throw on your resume in the event that you ended up needing a job or in the event that you wanted to change careers or whatever the case may be. It seemed like my generation, at least where I grew up, was the first generation to think that they really wanted a career degree of some kind, even if they never used it. A lot of the girls that I know that were coming out of school getting married are now divorced, either remarried or ended up in the careers that they studied for. Because, coming out of high school, how much could you really know about who you want to be with? Your brain's not even completely developed yet, right, at 18. And yes, some girls did go straight to college, so I'm not going to say none of them did, but that was kind of the way that it was. Now it seems like women are really looking to get straight into college and then go straight into their careers. And then once they're in their careers for a while, then it's like, okay, now I want to see whether or not. And by the way, my dog has his little squeaky puppy over there in the corner, so you're going to hear a little bit of that, so I apologize. Anyway, it seems now that, women, and I'm going to use women as an example, and of course, yes, men and women date, but women have always done things a little differently, and things have changed over the years with both men and women. In women's case, it did change as far as women are in their careers. They want to be entrenched, I guess I want to say, in their careers a little bit before they start saying, okay, I want to get married, have a family, meet somebody. It's not the goal it was when I was a kid. It's still a goal, but the priority changed, or the order of the priority changed. The expectations that women are having for their dating life has changed. But women are now, they're driving, of course, they own cars, they own homes. It's a very different landscape for dating now than it used to be. And women are not needing to be fed, needing to be taken out or picked up in cars. And the landscape changed because men are now really virtual strangers. You're really not meeting a whole lot of men now that you actually know, or that you know through other people, at least not in the way we used to. Now, we've got Facebook and we've got our different social media platforms, and you may know a guy through a few people in your social media platform, but that doesn't mean you really know who he is at all. And also, there's dating sites, right? And dating sites, more people they're from your neighborhood, they're your area, but there's a lot of little things now that you kind of have to do to be sure. And I'll say this because with men and women dating, of course, everybody needs to be safe, but women have that extra added value of, I do not want to be killed on this date, I do not want to be raped on this date, and so forth, right? And trigger warning, I'm not trying to make you feel bad, but these are the things that women have always had to worry about. And again, I'm not saying both men and women both have to be safe to some degree. Men also have to be careful, right? If you don't know who you're dealing with, if you're dealing with a woman that says, come get me, you have no idea what's going to happen when you get there. You don't know who's there waiting for you. You've no idea. Dave has told stories in past podcasts of picking someone up whose husband was waiting for him with a baseball bat, that kind of thing. Everybody kind of has to be on stranger danger alert, right? So to some degree, it's not like it used to be. There's not a familiarity. There's not already some kind of indirect knowledge of the other person. So this means that if people are wishing you harm, or if people are looking to do harm, you have to come up with some more creative ways to figure out who you're dealing with. So you have you can take an image and you can drop it in and you can get quite a bit of information from someone's picture if they post it. You can, there are court websites and there are all kinds of things, LinkedIn pages and things like that you can kind of, if you do your homework enough, can at least find out if this person legit, is this person got a history. There are underground groups going on right now where several people are trading information for somebody that might be on a dating site and who might be whatever, not good dating material for whatever reason, whether they have dated someone of a million people and don't really want to settle down, whether they are abusive, whether they are a pedophile, or whatever the case may be. Those kind of people are trolling sites and they are looking to continually find victims. And some of that information is very vital for people who are trying to just date and not end up in harm's way trying to do it, right? Women have every right to kind of protect themselves. And that was the one thing that was missing from dating in this day and age, is like that factor of, okay, well, we know this person from a dating site, or we know we're looking at pictures and we're listening, we're reading information and we're listening to them on the phone, but really who are they? Do we know anything about them? And if somebody was a repeat offender of some kind, there was really no concrete way to like find that out. The only way you can is by 7 people who dated him already. That's really the only way to find out at this point, because people are coming and going, and the internet is vast. It's very closely connected, but it's a very vast landscape, right? So the dating scene now is different because women are now they're not really looking to be taken care of as they once were. And don't get me wrong, women were never looking to be taken, some were, of course, some are always looking to be taken care of. I'm not going to say it doesn't happen, but there was a point in time, not very long ago, that women kind of had to be taken care of. They didn't have their own agency. They didn't have their own ability to work, make a decent living, buy a house, buy a car. I mean, these are things that they just couldn't do. Society did not want them doing these things. And if they tried to, it was very hard for them to try to get it done. So to some degree, they ended up in relationships with people that would take care of them, or they stayed home with their parents because that was kind of the options that they had. So now we're not looking really for someone to take care of us. Well, of course, we don't want to take care of anyone else. We just want to take care of ourselves, and we like to find people who can take care of themselves. So it seems like a really easy formula, but it really isn't. And right now I think there's a shift in the landscape happening. And the thing about the landscape changing is that there are a lot of men who it's been passed down from generation to generation. This is kind of what you do as a guy. You grow up, you go to school, you get your degree. I mean, as far as what is an upstanding person and what is a catch as a guy, guys are still kind of following that formula, and it's not shaken out for them the way that they expect it to, because they're just growing into it. They're growing up in a different landscape than like their fathers did, their grandfathers did, their older brothers did. So men are like, well, if I go to school, get my high school diploma, go to college, get a couple of degrees, and then get into a career, and then 3 or 4 years into my career, I find somebody, and then I say to them, listen, look, I got a good job, I've got a good house, I've got a good car. That was like a formula at one time that would attract women, and this guy's a good catch. Now, years ago, when that was what the option was, there was never any like, hey, should I have a good personality? Should I be a decent person? Like, a lot of that never really was part of the formula. It was like nice if it happened and it was a bonus, but it was really geared towards portfolio and financial stability. And can this guy support a family? Can he provide? Can he support a family? And that was great for the time. If you look at the whole big picture, that was what it was. Now the ability to provide isn't the top priority for women. Women are doing that already, or having a great car. Sure, it's nice if a guy has a nice car, but for women, what they're looking for when they're looking for substance is they're looking for somebody they can actually get along with, to have conversations with, somebody who, the more that liberation has happened and more that women have gone through the women's movement and are in college and getting degrees, and, there's scientists and people working for engineers and technology and all the things that women are doing, doctors, lawyers, whatever. We're kind of not looking for support anymore so much as we're looking for like companionship. And what we're finding, and it's not completely absolute, is that like the companionship factor is like lacking. So we're having that disconnect that's going on now, where women are looking for somebody that they can sit down and talk to that's like more of a team member. Don't get me wrong, there are some women out there that are just like, yeah, I have all my own stuff, but I still want a guy to come along and give me a bunch of stuff. I mean, there are women that are going to be like that. That doesn't, I don't think, speak for all women out there. For the most part, at least for me, for the people I know that are single and are looking for a substance in a guy, we're just looking for somebody who, like, they're where we're at. They work, we work. they can hold a conversation, we can hold a conversation. They've got a decent family, we've got a decent family. And so like, it just sort of like just looking for somebody to kind of be eye to eye from where we're at. It's an unbelievable task to try to get this accomplished, meaning for some reason, it's never been a priority for men to have emotional intelligence, is because I will say this, it seems like when I was a kid growing up, women were told that they were too emotional. Now, and I still see it kind of thrown at women from time to time. Really, I think we bought into it. I think it was like something that we were sold and we kind of believed it because I don't know. And we were in a position to believe it at the time, or whatever the case may be, it perpetuated the way it was. There are a lot of women who are emotional, but to be honest with you, it's never like, there's no connection between women and emotional stability. There's no connection between men and emotional stability. Like, I know a lot of men who are extremely emotional. I know a lot of women who are solid as a rock. So it really doesn't have anything to do with that. But for the longest time, we have been conditioned to believe like that this is how women are. And again, I think they've sold us a bill of goods, maybe, or society did, because they just didn't want to have to deal with it. And so we would just be, oh, it's just something's wrong with her. She's crazy, whatever. She just needs to go calm down. It was like the answer to everything. But boy, am I seeing a lot of really unstable guys in this environment trying to deal with what we used to deal with, which is men are busy, men are working, men are important, they have things to do, blah, blah, blah. There was a situation like that would happen where, we were told we needed not to bug guys. They had a lot to do. They had 90-hour weeks they were working and all that kind of stuff. If we were emotional, we eventually learned to, and again, the newer generations obviously are not going to be affected as much by this, but my generation, we kind of learned to, or maybe we just went through a bunch of years of trauma and things that we went through in our lives. And at this point, we're not emotionally unstable because we've just been through it all and we've just seen it all and we're just at that point. But I'm telling you, all ages of guys were seeing a really short fuse and a really high inability to emotionally regulate in this day and age, especially when it comes to dating. I've seen guys just like lose their minds entirely over like 20 seconds of not getting a response and that kind of thing. And needing, there's something that we call boy math, where there's guys that just kind of I want a woman who's going to be home and cook and clean, do all this other stuff, but also she better not want any money from me, so she's going to have to make her own money. And then there's a point in time when we kind of say, okay, well, like this doesn't math correctly. It doesn't add up. You kind of have to have one path or the other on that. You can either say, well, I want somebody who is home all the time and, cooks and cleans and takes care of the house or whatever, and I don't mind being the person who makes the money. Okay, well, that makes sense, because if she's home doing all of that, somebody's going to have to take care of her because she's taking care of you. On the other hand, if you want somebody who has a 6-7 figure career, she's not going to be home much and she's not going to be taking care of anything. She's going to be busy and she's going to have 24-hour phone calls coming in and meetings and, all that kind of stuff. She's going to be dealing with a whole lot of stuff, but she's not going to have time to cook, clean, do dishes and all that kind of stuff. Now, you could also say, well, if the two of you are out doing that, it should be easy to hire somebody to come in and do that. What do you care? You don't want to, have your jobs, have your careers, and there's probably plenty of money to pay for a decent cleaning. Somebody comes in once a week and you don't have to take care of it. Honestly, for me, that's how I feel about it. If I ever made 7 figures, which is probably never going to happen. And I met a guy that did the same. I mean, unless he really liked to clean, there's a couple things I don't mind doing. But for the most part, I'm not one that wants to just be home cleaning after I did everything I did at work. I'm just going to be like calling somebody to come in and do that for me. And if I have somebody living with me that has the same amount of money I do, or we have a decent amount of money where we can afford it, it makes no sense to be cleaning the house top to bottom, with the exception of having our privacy. That's the only thing I would really think about that would be a problem. Anyway, what I was getting into was that, we're now looking for like personalities and substance in guys. This is a different thing than we used to look for. And I don't know, again, I'm sure there's going to be a cream of the crop that kind of rises to the top, and it seems to be happening. There are guys that really don't want to provide that. They're like, well, I don't want to have a good personality. I don't want to better myself. I shouldn't have to do this. Women are asking for too much. And for the most part, at least in my opinion, there are a lot of women I know that like we'd like to date. We like to meet somebody and find somebody that works for us, but like it's not the end of the world if it doesn't happen. We're not going to be distraught over it. We'll kind of just we'll stay at status quo unless we find something that is worth it for us to consider something different. So we're kind of we could take it or leave it. That's kind of where we're at. I know a lot of women who have been married and got divorced, or were married and their husbands passed away, or were in very long-term relationships that didn't last. And a lot of them are just I'm done. I don't really want to do that again. I really have no desire to do it, right? And at the other end, going into the pipeline at the younger ages are women that are trying to get into relationships like that. To be honest with you, I've been watching women since I was very young and just watching their attitudes towards it. That are the women that have what all these women, that young women want. I've been looking at women who have the things that all women want at a young age, and I've kind of been watching their reactions to what they have. Okay, well, this is a woman who has what most women are trying to get. How's she doing with that? And I'm not saying every woman in the world comes out unenthused by this situation, but a lot of women are just kind of like, yeah, it eventually turned into something that, well, it's great, and we had some good times, and I have my children, and, whatever. There was a lot of my life where we had a lot of good times, and we had family, and whatever the case may be. There were a lot of ups and downs in the relationship, and some of the really good stuff was great memories, and they wouldn't trade them for anything. They're also like it doesn't seem like it's worth it for them to start all over again and go into a whole new relationship with what they've taken from the last one. And that's very important for me. And I see that and I go, okay, and I see it a lot. It's not like once in a while. It's pretty prevalent. Anyway, that being said, I'm going to bring up Jenny Young and a quick overview of something that's called Burned Haystack Dating Method, or Burned Haystack Method, BHDM, right? I'm just bringing it up because it's like a brand new thing. I would say it's a brand new thing where nobody's heard of it before, but it's a bunch of actions and strategies that are thrown together in like sort of a step-by-step to kind of get you off of, and some of this is really good only because not only Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that, but a lot of these dating sites and social media platforms, they have a dopamine receptor that they hit that we are not slaves to, but we're unconditionally programmed to be engaged by. Just so you know this, and this is just because I've been in the advertising business and kind of know, people that are selling you things are not selling you things because they want you to go away, right? Almost every product is like got some kind of return guarantee or some kind of long-term guarantee that you're going to be a return customer. And as far as I'm concerned, dating sites are not looking to get you hooked up and off the site. That is not their intention. Just like when you go to a casino, the casino doesn't want you to win $300,000 and go home. That's not what they're there for. They don't make their money off of people who win and leave. That's not their thing. What they profit on, and you can't blame them. It's what they do. It's so easy to go in there and get caught up with like you thinking that people want you to win money. They don't want you to win money. They want you to spend money. Understand that dating sites, first of all, I've told you in the past podcasts that all dating sites almost all of them are owned by the same company, right? So look up the Match Group when you get a chance. Right there, that should tell you, because when you're not aware of the Match Group, you're like, okay, I'm on Bumble. Okay, I'm on Tinder. I'm on OkCupid. I'm on Plenty of Fish. And you think that you're going back and forth to different sites, but as far as I'm concerned, you're under the same umbrella. You're under the same roof. So you're not doing anything. What I call illusion of choice, right? They want every single person that wants to date, right? So they want people that want to spend this much a month to date, but they also want people who don't want to spend anything, and they want people who, Bumble is a female oriented site, meaning that if you're a woman, you're the first person to send a message to. You don't get a lot of messages in unless you send one first. So that gives you the option of control. But then there's also Tinder, and Tinder is the exact opposite. Well, this is all, you're just underneath their roof, and they're giving you a bunch of dating sites to choose from. But at the end of the day, you're still their customer. And remember that. So the reason I like this Burned Haystack dating method is because there is an art to using this as a tool and not like having it be like your life. And there are a lot of things in dating sites that trip you up and, just sidetrack you, and like you just get nowhere with dating sites. You frustrate yourself, it kind of, to some degree, your attitude and your morale can kind of be hit from it. And so this kind of, again, I'm not sure what the long-term thing is that's going on with this, but it has something called discourse analysis, right? That's something that I've actually known about for years, but never had a word for or a phrase for. Discourse analysis, which is, the way that people talk to you, not just on a dating site, but anywhere, reveals all kinds of things about what their agenda is, their purpose is, what they're getting at. They're telling you things about themselves in their conversation that if you're keen enough, you can pick up on. And you can say to yourself, well, is this somebody I want to deal with or I don't, or I'm going to engage in this or I'm not, or whatever the case may be. There's a lot of little hidden messages and what things that people do and say. So discourse analysis, that's like a phrase I now have up to label that, right? So Jenny Young, she teaches at the University of Wisconsin. I'm going to give you in the notes, I'm going to drop some stuff. I'll drop her blog in there, and then I'll drop, some information about the sites because there's a Facebook group associated with this. But the basic theory of it is there's a step-by-step in here. It starts with how you would set up your profile if you're going on dating sites to look for somebody. And the bottom line is burnt haystack means if you're looking for a needle in a haystack, it's so much easier to burn the hay and get rid of it and find the needle than it is to try to get in there and like fish around for the needle. It's just easier. It's faster. It gets you what you want. And, you get rid of all the filler and the stuff that you don't need to deal with. That's basically what that means. So it's basically giving you some information about how to put a profile together, what it is that you need, what people say about your profile, what works, what doesn't work, and like kind of how to avoid. This is really one big step-by-step process on how like not to waste your time and how to get what you're looking for real quick. The first concept of this, or the first reaction you're going to get to this is, oh no, I'm not going to have any prospects. Because you're going to just be going through people and getting rid of people that are just kind of, and if you notice, if you're on dating sites a lot, you will run into a whole lot of what I call filler. There's a lot of guys that are just like sort of there. They're not really for you. They're not really, but they're sort of just there. They've been there for 10 years. They're not going anywhere. There's a lot of conversations that kind of don't amount to anything. So, and women are getting frustrated. They're like, it's either a guy is ghosting me completely, or the minute I talk to him, he's talking to me about sex, that kind of stuff. Like, a lot of women are getting discouraged because of like the prospects that they're running into, right? So this kind of is, and I'm just going to go through like your main categories. I'm not going to tell you any about the details because I'm going to let you read it yourself, and it's not mine, and I don't want to take any credit for it. I just want to make sure that I give you the information overall, so you can understand what it's about. It basically tells you how to set up your profile, what kind of pictures to use, what kind of text to use. And it's not going to tell you to say anything false. It's not going to tell you to put stuff in there on purpose that doesn't describe you or anything like that. It's just telling you like kind of what to remove that doesn't need to be there. And that's just like sort of kind of preventing you from getting or attracting what you really should be attracting a lot faster. And then there's the rules for profile management. That's the next thing, right? Quickly, I'll go through these 3 rules because I believe this. I agree. The app is a tool and it's not a place to live, right? So there's a certain amount of time you want to allot yourself daily to this thing. And then you just want to get off it and don't worry about it anymore, right? Shut your notifications off and focus more on messaging than scrolling, which it's true. We doom scroll. There's something going on with our brains where we will get into a pattern where we'll just flip, swipe. And sometimes we're not even paying attention to it. That's a lot of damage to your psyche to some degree. So I agree with that. Those things are there. And then there's like a little bit more in-depth information about why those things should probably be avoided or changed. It's giving you information about how to engage with the messages, what to say, what not to say, what messages are pretty much just a waste of your time, and how to respond to those. And the no notifications is so that, you don't, if you're not getting notifications all day, then you'll be doing what you're doing. You focus it on your day. Look at it in a bigger scale and say, okay, well, even Facebook, even Instagram, even LinkedIn, even, Twitter, all of these things are kind of pulling your attention from what you should be doing. And none of that stuff should be popping up every 5 seconds. You have to go check and see what it is, that kind of thing. And then your next rule is the block to burn. Now, there's block to burn is something where, and she explains it, and there's a whole lot more detail, but I'm going to just go over it really quick and say, when you don't want, and this is for people that message you, you basically start from the message. And if you see that this message is not going to be doing you any good, you basically block the account. Now, what you would be doing is, as women, we're programmed to be nice. I don't personally agree with that, but I know a lot of women are like, well, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. And we're just always looking to make sure that we're polite. But really, being that there's algorithms on these sites, if you do block the ones you don't want, it will like cause the algorithm to have to change and give you different people. So that's one good reason to block. And it's, again, a tool. You don't know these people. You don't owe them anything. There should be no drama going on from you blocking people that you don't know anyway, or that you weren't going to date anyway, right? This is a tool for you to basically weed out the wheat and the chaff kind of thing, right? So it kind of gives you a little bit of a, hey, stop and think about this. Is this, are these people ever going to be bothered with? And then in the future, you won't see them come back around. And if you're on dating sites, you'll understand what that means. You just keep seeing the same guys that come back around again. So you start seeing them over and over again. And that is a time waster for you. And then there's there's a couple rules here. Don't fight with men. Don't fight with them. Don't tell them how offended you are by something they said, all that kind of stuff. I agree with that just because I think it's a waste. And I do believe there's men on sites that are looking to shock you. And if they get a reaction out of you, that's like going to be what they're looking to do. And so here you are thinking that you're giving a guy a lecture about something he said that you didn't like. And he's, all excited that he pissed you off. And I do agree with don't be a pen pal, although I have been, as a person who has a million things going on and easily gets sidetracked and forget I'm talking to somebody. So that's something I got to work on. Being a pen pal for like a specific amount of time. After that time passes, you know that it's just going to be a permanent thing where you're going to talk to them forever and nothing's ever going to come of it. That's also not something that you need to do. It's just not productive, right? So those people you want to block as well. So I guess you put up a specific amount of time. They gave you an example of a week in this particular step-by-step process. It's a week is mentioned. And with the exception of like some kind of outside exception that like would cause a person to not speak to you for over a week, you would just kind of block the account and be like, all right, I'm done with that. So it also says share your geography, but just don't share your location. So here's where I live. Here's the basic general area I live in, but not like your actual hometown and things like that. So that like you just don't get any kind of proximity type requests. And then there's ludic looping, right? Which ludic looping is a thing where, yes, it's the scroll thing or it's the swipe thing, right? It's almost like it goes from your swiping for looking for something to the swipe itself becomes the goal. And that's a shift that causes a dopamine charge in your brain and all this other stuff. But basically, it's just a hamster on a wheel thing that starts happening that, like, for several reasons, just like needs to not be happening. It's not productive. It's not getting you what you want. It's kind of like not, if you are sitting in a casino and you're on a slot machine and you keep pulling the slots for nickels eventually, you want to win, but like also pulling the slot at some point becomes exciting as opposed to you winning. It becomes exciting to pull the slot in itself. Again, not productive. So I get that. Then there's something called attractions of deprivation. And there's a whole thing about that in there. And I'll drop an article in the notes about that. But it was actually a pretty interesting thing. Attractions of deprivation. You're almost getting a reward for, it's the type of association that like makes you question yourself or makes you kind of try to attain a goal as opposed to something that's just there and works for you. It's more like you're trying to win over something. Attractions of deprivation. I thought that was an interesting concept. And again, it's not something that I've not heard before, but it's just something I haven't heard mentioned in that way. And it goes on to know men who can't plan a date and people who are kind of like, hey, what do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? People that don't really give you any kind of concrete information should go. Of course, if somebody decides that they want to plan with you and they're actively making an effort to make a plan, then that's fine. But if somebody's just sort of going, hey, let's get together and what do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? Or they're just kind of throwing it on you to make the plans. That's got to go. And there's a bunch of other stuff that you'll get on dating sites. And this Burned Haystack Method is specifically for women. Telltale signs in conversation. You're just talking to somebody that's not going to go anywhere. And, you know, you could entertain it, but if it's not going to go anywhere, what's the point, right? So there's a little bit of lines and things about that you're going to be getting in messages and things that are in profiles that like are just signs that you should just head them off at the pass and quit while you're ahead and just not even bother. And then when you remove these people with block to burn, it should trigger the algorithm to like take a different path based on what you're blocking. Well, when they have to give you stuff that you haven't seen before, and eventually you're going to be blocking everything you don't want. And so they're going to have to either give you nothing until something new shows up, or it's going to have to change the type of guy it's handing you or whatever the case may be. If you're on a site where there are no guys, right? If you go through all of them because you don't want any of them on the site, that doesn't really mean anything. It just means that, okay, you've run out of guys, and at least you're not wasting your time with it. And if somebody comes on that's new, you'll know because everybody else is blocked. So that makes sense. Anyway, there's a group on Facebook. Like I said, I'm going to put the links. Actually, I think I'm going to put the blog link in the notes. And I believe the blog link has an email and has like a straight Facebook group link that you can go to from there. And there's also an Instagram page. So I'll add that as well. And again, none of this is anything to do with me. I'm not taking the credit for it or anything like that. I just wanted to bring it up because it looked like a lot of stuff to go through. I have some friends that have been interested in this, but they haven't necessarily had like time to go in it. It looks like a lot. And then when you go through it, it's not as much as you think it is. And then there's a graphic. As far as messages are concerned, there's a kind of a graphic to follow. Okay, here we go. So this graphic right here, it's just basically a messaging hierarchy. So if you're talking to people in messages and then what to deal with, what not to deal with, that kind of thing. And so it's like, if the message has these components to it, then, message back this way. If it has these components to it, but it's personal, then message back a certain way. If it's somebody sends you a message like this where it's not harmful, but it doesn't really have a lot of substance and kind of respond in kind, or, for a couple of them don't answer at all, or a couple of them just block directly. A lot of these guys that are sending over messages about sex right away, those guys have got to go. Now, what I think, I do want to mention this, and then I'm going to wrap it up because I just wanted to kind of get into that and a little bit about dating and the history, right? So I'm done. This technique will quickly probably pull a lot of the better guys out of the pile. and it's going to leave a lot of the ones that are no good in a pile and that's going to get discarded. And if enough women follow this, I don't know. I would hope that some of these guys that are getting discarded do something to like rearrange their game or to improve themselves or something. For what I'm seeing out there, a lot of them are just sort of like doubling down and saying, nope, we are who we are, and we expect you guys to just adjust. And we're just like, nope, we don't want to do that. So it's a battle of wills. It really shouldn't be. Obviously, we both want to date. Well, for those who are heterosexual or for who are cis, you want to date the opposite sex. The opposite sex should also want to date you. And so everybody should be trying to put an effort in to like make it happen. But right now we're having, it looks like a battle of the sexes where it's kind of like, well, we're looking for better. And guys are like, well, we refuse to be better. We're just not going to do that. So we think you're asking for too much and we don't want to be better. And we think you should accept us. If we don't have to, we'll just not date. You know, I think it seems to be that's what's happening. There are a lot of guys out there that have decided they don't want to date either. And to be honest with you, if they think that they can't either be something that women want to date or revise themselves a little bit, and they think that like most women are asking for way too much, then I guess maybe not dating is the right answer. It's probably the best thing for them to do. So it's not going to upset me. Some of them, not dating is going to kind of be a relief. And again, there are some really, really great guys out there. And I hope that guys don't get upset about this technique, because I think what it does is guys that are really good guys, that are a good catch, that have all kinds of stuff going for them, and they're really three-dimensional, substantial guys, are not going to be affected by this. But the really good guys out there, they usually separate themselves with their actions, their consistency. That's something we're looking for in 2020 for a lot of women that I know and myself. We like consistency. We like to know when somebody says something, they're going to do it. When somebody does do something, it's who they are, so they do it repeatedly. It's not like, oh, it's just like this 1 week and not like that the next week, and maybe it's like that 3 weeks from now, and like that kind of stuff that we can't really depend on, or we really can't set our watches by. We're not interested in that kind of thing. Again, I don't think that any of us are telling men that they need to change. We're just going to sort through the pile at this point. And this technique will pull the substance out of the pile pretty quick. So, or at least it appears to. Again, I haven't seen all of it in all of its full glory, how long it goes down the road and like what the results are going to be as time goes on. But logically, and we are a logical podcast, it seems to shake out. I seem to see the math making sense. So there may be some unexpected twist or turn that I don't see coming or I haven't considered. So far, it actually looks like it's pretty effective. So we'll see what happens. And I'll drop some information in the notes and we'll go from there. Have a great day. Have a good Thursday. Have a good weekend. And before I go, www.laneanddave.com. That's our website. Our podcast platforms are there. Our social media platforms are there. Please download and subscribe with whatever platform you use. Give us a 5-star review. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon. Bye. Hey, you just listened to Love and Life with Lana and Dave. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please share the podcast, leave us a comment or review, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any new content. We'll see you soon.